Alrighty, I'm just taking a few minutes before the video just to apologize. I know that this is kind of a ritual now, but it does appear that there is occasionally an echo on one of the three mics. Spoiler alert. But yeah, so there is a little bit of an echo as well as one of the person's mics does appear to be cutting out randomly. If I could fix it, I would. Honestly, once the podcast takes up, then we will be able to get the proper gear needed to make this 10 times more enjoyable for you guys. But yeah, it is a very good topic, and be sure to let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button and enjoy.
Welcome down the Badger Hole, episode 5. I'm Drew,
I'm Chandler.
and this is Trevor.
Hello.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, we decided to bring the other brother in for this one. Trevor, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Trevor. I am the middle child, unfortunately.
All of those things are facts.
I just realized.
That we're sitting.
He's literally in the middle.
Yeah, we're sitting in like age order with me being super fucking old and Chandler being like 11 or whatever.
Yep, I'm 11.
Yeah, times 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, how was everyone's week? We'll start with Trevor because you're the guest.
It was good. I worked in craft.
Oh, Minecraft's great. Can't go wrong with a little bit of the old MC. 15 years they're celebrating. Yeah, that's a long time.
How was your week?
That was great.
Good.
Baby A can almost sit up by himself. I have pictures that I can show you guys afterwards.
Of him almost sitting.
Yeah,
I will gladly look at them.
yeah, it's pretty great. We're well, I'm sure Autumn is as well, but very excited. Because like I put him in the corner because I started watching Adventure Time with him.
Okay.
Because I'm like, you know what? I've heard great things about it, and I've never watched it myself. So did that, and I came up with a good idea for my next D&D character.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna be a hot dog knight. You guys have never watched Adventure Time, right?
I have.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, then you know what
I
the hot
watched a
dog
little
knight's.
bit. Autumn actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was. And then I worked on notes once I figured out what I was doing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
My week was never ending.
Long and hard like a penis.
Like a penis.
You say the word was, implying that it did it.
Oh yeah, did you complete the job you were working today?
Yeah, but I gotta start another one tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just a walkthrough, right? It's not an actual start.
No.
Oh, for the client you're
Yeah.
working today.
Yep.
Damn, dude. Well, I mean, it's good that the people you're working for want to keep you on.
I average like 5.5 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah, I mean,
So like,
I'd say I feel bad for you, but like, I've got an almost 6-month-old, so.
no comment. What are we talking about today?
All right. So, I know that you didn't do any research, Chandler.
No. None.
Trevor, you did a bit. You did a bit. I have an idea of where you stand on this already without spoiling anything. So we're just gonna leave that. Okay.
And I think currently I have way less information than you have.
Yeah, definitely.
So we will see if you can change that.
I spent, I don't know, about 20 hours researching and probably 6 to 7 hours typing up notes. So
That's how much sleep I got this week.
26 hours total?
Yeah.
Great.
That's more planning than you put into any game
That's not true.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yes, it is.
session, not
Yes,
the
it
whole
is.
thing.
They're salty because I used to DM for them. The whole
Used,
family.
used to.
The whole family really. And yeah, I would just kind of like off the cuff it. I'd have a broad idea of where I wanted them to go. And I would try to railroad them into that, but it generally didn't work. So, you know, why plan for shit that they're not going to do is the way I think about it. And anyone that's DM'd can probably relate. Okay. So, this is the second listener topic that we've covered so far. So big shout out to Autumn, mother of Aelin, wrangler of demon dogs, Taco Bell aficionado, and love of my life for suggesting this one. And it probably helped that we recently started watching a show that was very heavily inspired by this topic. If you've done any sort of deep badger hole diving yourself into the realm of alternative thinking, you've probably heard of Art Bell, host and creator of Coast to Coast AM. From 1988 to 2003, Art filled his syndicated 175-minute 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Eastern time slot with whatever interested him, much like this very podcast. He also had different phone lines and fax lines for different segments. Fax machine, Chandler. For those that have never heard the robotic death cries of a dial-up modem, which have you don't know?
I've heard fax machines.
You never heard of
No.
Yeah. Fucking,
Probably in like movies or TV.
I mean, when he was like 1, maybe. A fax machine is basically an early way to send images, usually documents, over a phone line. For all of our young listeners or viewers.
Hello, Josh.
What's up, Josh? Now, by the time the specific story begins, wow, Art would receive hundreds of faxes a day describing crazy things. But on February 21st, 1997, one came across his desk that piqued his interest. It wasn't the standard, my dog got probed by aliens, or I smoked a doobie with Bigfoot, but a man from rural Washington identifying himself as Mel Waters.
Do we need to stop?
No, I'm okay.
Mutter.
Hello, Mutter. Hello, Fatter. We're talking about Mel Waters. Mel claimed to have a hole on his land with some pretty strange properties. And fortunately, there was a contact number on the top of the fax. So let's all prepare ourselves to jump into Mel's hole. I mean, the mystery of Mel's hole. We got 3 guys. We're gonna.
That was supposed to be funny.
We're gonna get into Mel's hole.
That was supposed to be funny. It wasn't.
I think it's funny.
That's more funny though.
Yeah. So Art calls Mel up, and he makes a little bit of small talk about the facts and asks why he's awake. Because again, this is a late night, early AM show. Mel explains that he's not living on the property because some recent snowstorms have collapsed and had collapsed most of the buildings on the property. And he's awake because, well, Art had called him to set up this whole conversation beforehand. Mel starts describing that he and the bank, which is a little joke, own the land that's situated 9 miles or 14 kilometers west of Ellensburg in Kittitas County, Washington.
Did you look up? That's how it's pronounced.
That's how they said it, I believe.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I listened to so many hours of audio for this one, and points out that he came to Art, specifically the Coast to Coast audience, for suggestions about what he should do. He refers to the town his property is located in as Monastish. I tried to dedicate it to memory again. Weird fucking name. Assumedly because it's up against the Monastish Ridge mountain range.
Makes sense.
Right. There is actually no city or township called Monastish.
Okay.
Monastish. It's Monastish. Mel said that the community had been using this hole essentially as a dump for as long as he can remember. He stated that people have thrown refrigerators, TV tubes, dead cows, even thousands of tires down his 9-foot, 9-inch diameter hole. And not only has it never filled up, but they've never heard anything hit the bottom. In fact, they've never heard any sound come from the hole, even an echo if you scream into it.
But it's 9 feet?
It's 9 foot, 9 inches in diameter.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's never tried to
Well,
He'll probably get
it
to
definitely
that.
gets into that, but you got something to say?
Yeah, you say they say. So Mel is saying that his neighbors are saying.
Yes, Mel is saying that his neighbors have said these things.
Okay.
So all of this info comes directly from Mel's mouth, either as a first person or second person experience.
Okay.
It's either things that he has experienced or things that he has been told have been experienced by others. Mel claims to have wanted to see how deep the hole was. There you go, Chandler. And if there was water at the bottom. He had his dogs with him, and they refused to go anywhere near the hole, which he hadn't noticed before. So he had an idea. Before becoming basically retired, he was a semi-professional shark fisherman in California. So he took a 1-pound triangular weight, tied it to the end of some 20-pound monofilament, and clicked the release on one of his reels. 1,500 yards later, he was out of line.
That's kind of nuts.
That's pretty bonkers. He never once felt the line slack up or tug as if it was stuck on a limb. So he goes to not super local, but he goes to a fishing supply store, and he buys more 20-pound test. 18 spools of 5,000 yards of this line.
So 5,000 feet times 18.
5,000 yards times 18.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
I get into the math. Don't you worry. He also said that he's got an outrigger pole set up like into the hole. It's not directly in the center. There's nothing bracing it. He said it's an outrigger is a shorter pole. It's like 3 feet into the hole. The pole is into the hole. And it's difficult to move side to side under the weight of all this spliced together line that he's just been dropping down there off the reel. 80,000 feet is what he's estimated he's dropped down into this hole.
80,000 feet.
80,000 feet.
That's about 15 miles.
Oh, 15 motherfucking miles. It's a little over 15 miles, in fact.
Holy shit.
Around the 4,500 foot mark, he sends a roll of lifesavers down the line to test for water. Apparently, this is an old shark fishing trick. You throw the lifesavers down, or you attach it to your line, and when it dissolves, if you've got a balloon on your line, it's carried your line far enough out from, if you're fishing on a beach, at the time the lifesavers dissolve, it drops your bait into the water without attracting anything beforehand.
Okay.
And if you're ever going to do anything like that, fishing or otherwise, please use a biodegradable balloon. They make them for fishing now for the exact same reason. Obvious reasons. Mel says that the lifesavers came up bone dry.
Like they weren't wet at all?
Nope. And that's at 4,500 feet. That's a deep fucking hole. Mel's got a deep hole, guys.
He's the old one.
Expect a lot of
He's the old one.
Yeah, that's surprising. He's the one that's making all of these jokes. And
Yeah.
he's like,
Well, somebody's
40.
gonna liven this shit up a bit.
It's alive. He needs to be smacked.
Mel also mentions that his wife works in the geology department of the local college, and she's dumbfounded. Art asks what her colleagues say. Mel explains that they're pretty much scoffed at the mention of their seemingly bottomless pit. Because, yeah, in a professional setting, somebody comes to that with you, even a colleague, and I guess you're like, you're fucking stupid, leave me alone. Go ahead.
If I was a scientist or a professor of geology at a university of some sort, and a colleague came to me with this like thing that they had never seen before, and I had never seen, and I thought it was impossible, and it's like in a drivable distance.
I'd probably at least drive out there and check it out.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I do.
Like, I
agree.
wouldn't have scoffed. I would have wanted more information.
Same.
I agree.
Yeah. Throughout this first call, Mel also talks about a few stories he's been told. The first being about a beloved hunting dog that belonged to a local hunter. Well, the dog died, and rather than bury his companion, the man decided to throw the dog into the hole.
It's basically burying. Don't
No,
make
Yeah,
that
I
fuck,
mean,
it's not.
It's a hole in the earth. You're just gonna make a hole in the earth and then put the dog in it.
Right. Why make a hole when
There's
there's
a
already another
hole.
hole?
And it's country people, Chandler. You
Yes.
remember how Thermopolis was?
Yeah.
Mel does specify that the story is apocryphal, meaning that it's doubtful. It's of doubtful authenticity, although widely circulated as true. In other words, it's possibly fake news. But I love that word. It's great. Apocryphal.
But there's also a possibility that it's
Yeah, even
legit.
even Mel said that. Like those are his words that it's
Well,
apocryphal.
hard to believe, yeah.
Yeah, because it is. As the story goes, a few months go by and people start seeing this dog in the forest, sometimes appearing to hunt by itself and sometimes accompanied by a different person. But people swear it's the same dog.
Whoa, wait,
Yep.
what the fuck? What? I'm lost. There's the dog that was thrown in the hole.
Yep,
Yeah.
the dead dog that was thrown in the hole.
They claim that they've seen him in the woods.
Yep.
Well, he claims that he's heard that people said that they've seen the dog in the
Mel
woods.
said that other people in town have heard of this dog running around.
Okay.
Same coloration, same collar, same tags. Now, this area has a local population of around 6,000-ish people at the time that doubles when college is in session. So, I mean, it's a small town, odds are pretty good, people know the dog,
Yeah.
right? Go ahead. You're gearing up to say something?
Same tags.
Uh,
The only way you would
apparently it had the I'm assuming the dog had very distinct tags, and the dog that was seen afterwards had the same tags. That's the only way that makes any sense.
Because there's not proof that like anyone went up to this dog or anything in that sort, correct?
After the reports come rolling in, the hunter himself catches a glimpse of his quadrupedal buddy in some trees and calls out for him. The dog doesn't react at all. He then starts running toward the trees, but the dog is gone by the time he gets there. Not a trace left behind.
maybe the dog didn't come because the dog has a different name than the one he was calling because it's a different dog.
I mean, that's not really for me to determine. No, that could totally be the case.
I mean, how many fucking... I'm gonna catch some slack for this one, but like most black labs look the fucking same.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I'm betting this
And-
was like a
and was-
beagle or a border collie or something.
And the same collar and tags, so they had, say, a red collar with a tag on it.
that was silver or black. Like-
Okay, I will.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
I will keep listening.
totally. I'm not debating that with you like at all. Not yet. I'm not. Also, apparently radios get a little weird around the hole. Like they pick up old-timey music from stations that are otherwise static. So like, you know, you set your fucking boombox for a static station, you put it near the hole, and all of a sudden you're getting like Fallout music and shit.
What's that game? Hold on. What's that game that it's super old? We used to play it all the time. It's like a retro zombie game. It's like you're in the 70s. You have those nice cars, but there's also zombies.
Stubbs the Zombie is what you're talking about.
I think so.
Because
like
you
that kind of
played
music.
as a zombie, right? You were a zombie detective.
And you get to like drive the car around
Yeah.
and shit. Yeah, dude.
How the fuck do you remember that?
I
don't know.
actually have no idea what y'all are talking about.
That's an old fucking game.
It is an old game.
But like all I remember, like whenever you
Yeah,
brought
it was
music,
very, like,
that
it was-
music,
It
like,
was very like Fallout.
are you
themey.
looking up studs?
It was like Stubbs.
Yes.
Stubbs, I believe. Maybe a Z. I'm not sure.
Holy shit!
Wow. Holy. Wow. I guess
Flabbergasted.
yeah, that's a good word for it.
Hold
I'm
on.
flummoxed.
Time out. He's looking it up.
Oh, okay.
We don't want to.
No, I'm just looking it up to see what it is because I don't
Stubbs
know
the
what y'all are
Zombie is
talking
a
about.
game. Like, we
Okay.
don't have to verify
Stubbs
that.
the zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse.
Yeah.
Is there like
Is
a
the whole
picture
thing.
that I can show the camera real quick?
When
Of
was
the
it released?
game?
It was like early 2000s, I want to say.
I'm sure people have played this. I could just pull it up on my computer,
Yeah.
but like this works too.
Yeah. And it looks like it was remade for the Xbox One.
Yeah, it
Excellent. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to describe the whole a bit.
does. Okay.
Because it's not at all like the depiction in Outer Range, which is the show I mentioned in the beginning. The show is a total mindfuck. You should all watch it. Josh Brolin stars in it, and he's incredible. And it's based very heavily on Mel's Hole.
The Mystery of Mel's Hole.
Again, we don't know if this is like factual, if this is just like
Also, I just want us to stop saying just Mel's Hole.
That's not gonna happen, bud. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep. So okay, apparently this 9-foot 9-inch diameter hole, as I already said, has a stone retaining wall protruding 2 feet up out of the ground the entire way around it, and appears to go down about 15 feet. After that, it's dirt, but it's a perfectly circular hole. You've got a 2-foot wall
yeah.
that goes into the ground 15 feet, and you can see that when you're looking at it. And Mel put a lid made of corrugated metal on this thing so that no one accidentally fell into it when they bought the property.
Was he selling the property?
No. When he bought the property originally.
When he first bought the property, he was like, "All right, we got to get a lid on this."
Yeah, we gotta literally cover this hole.
We'd probably do the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, you got animals and like
Kids.
Yeah.
Like if there's
But then what made him start doing all the investigation?
because he was like, how fucking deep is this hole? People throwing thousands of tires and fucking dead cows.
But
and all
if
sorts
it's
of...
if it's closed, how are people throwing?
'Cause there's a lid. You just pop the fucking lid off the damn.
Okay.
Okay. So it looks like an old well, which is what Mel kind of assumed it was when he originally bought the property. Until he realized that it seems to go on forever. I'll get more into all of it. I know you guys have questions. Feel free to ask them if you want, but I will touch on all of it in the notes. Now,
Question:
answer.
How deep do wells go generally? Like, do we know?
Not fucking 80,000 feet.
I will Google.
Well, because like oil wells.
Yeah, are still not 80,000 feet.
No, but they're damn near.
No, they're fucking not.
They
No,
literally.
no, they're not 15
Chandler,
fucking
They
no.
miles.
literally.
I've got all of the information about the deepest holes ever drilled on Earth. You just gotta wait for it.
Most water wells for homes are dug between 100 and 500.
That's
Okay.
not 80,000.
No, correct. But like oil
Oil
wells,
fracking
those
still-
go like 20.
No, they fucking don't.
Yes, they do. It's
Trevor, please Google while I continue. Now, Art jabs a bit at Mel throughout the entire call, asking him things like, are you sure you're not pulling my leg or yanking my chain? And Mel swears up and down that he hasn't made any of this story up. He says, my neighbors know about it. It's very well known in my area.
5,000 to 20,000 feet. It's
20,000 is nowhere near 80,000.
That's what I just said though. 20.
It is,
So, like-
that is what you said. Sorry, I got loud there, everyone. Mel says that his neighbors know about it, and he's adamant that the guy who owned the property before him said that people have been dumping junk in the hole since before even he owned the property. So, running back through all of the conversations, we assume that the guy that Mel bought the property from had owned that property since about the 50s.
Okay.
So, Mel and his wife had owned it for 4 years before this, which takes place in 1997.
Okay.
so 1993.
1993-ish. Mel swears that he just wants to experiment and get the input from Art's listener base, of which several do call in. There's a guy from Austin, Texas, and he said he'd volunteer to go down in a cage so long as he had a button that would instantly bring him back up. Mel tells the caller that it's actually in his will to be thrown into his own hole once he dies, which feels like an up your own ass joke. Mel's like, I want to be put in my own hole. Whatever. Art throws out some suggestions about cameras and getting the local news involved, and Mel makes a joke about Geraldo Rivera going into the hole, which is funny. The mustache guy, Geraldo.
Don't know who that is.
Do you know who that is, Trev?
I know who that is. I just didn't find it comical.
Of course. But also states that as far as he knows, this is the most public any information regarding the hole has ever been. There's not even a mention of its history in the local paper, because apparently Mel has checked. Another caller from Milwaukee is on the line, and he explains that he consulted his encyclopedias and that the Mariana Trench is 36,000 feet deep. He also explains that with mining equipment available at the time, they could safely only get down to about 1,640 feet deep. Mel had mentioned that if he was wondering if his hole set any sort of Guinness World Record, and Art assured him that his hole was certainly the deepest hole. I'm sorry, there's so many of them.
It's just
Art was making the jokes too, like you can't stop. And he's like a professional. The deepest mine at the world at the time of this recording is the Mapanang gold mine in South Africa, which has an operational depth of over 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers below the surface. Now, that's a mine, right? That's You're able to sneak your way
mine.
down quite a bit. The deepest artificial hole ever drilled at the time of, again, this recording is the Kola Super Deep Borehole Project in Pajensky district of Russia near the Norway border. This was back when the USSR was a thing. 1989 to be exact. And that has a depth of 7.61 or 12.262 kilometers. 7.61 miles, 12.262 kilometers. They had to stop drilling because the drill bits were melting.
Okay. I mean, friction does that.
That's at 12 miles. No, they would just put it in the hole, and the heat from the earth was melting the drill bits.
Oh, shit.
Not seen the core.
No,
yeah,
I have.
Watch the core. Or actually, it's not that good. We watched it as kids, and it was like, this
I've
is
seen
incredible. And
worse.
now it's like, there's even an Associated Press story about the drilling of this hole, depicting that there were strange sounds coming out of it.
Which hole?
The
Russia one?
Kola super deep borehole.
Okay.
Yeah, the Russian one. And they apparently lowered a microphone down into this hole and heard, quote unquote, thousands and thousands of people screaming in agony. And the story was dubbed The Well to Hell. And that's all I could get out of that.
And how deep is that hole?
That is
12 miles?
that is 7.61 miles. That's half the depth of Mel's hole.
Not even half. Right?
7.61 is just about half
Possibly.
of 15.
And the 15 miles was just the amount of line that was put down.
That he had dropped
bottom.
in. He had never felt the bottom.
Okay. That's fair. But, like, who the fuck just has 15 miles of fishing line?
Oh,
Well,
no, he
he
did.
had
That's
to
why
go
I had
live
to
stream.
say.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, that shit gets expensive.
I mean, 20-pound test, monofilament. I'm sure you can get it on sale.
And 5,000
5,000 yards.
yeah, which is that's a lot of math that I don't have the capacity to do right now.
It's a lot of yards.
Yeah.
Mel has some different ideas about the hole being some sort of astronomical anomaly or maybe an ancient Native American spiritual site, but in the end they run out of time for the call and Mel does the sign off, which is like a thing that Art does on every show. 2 days later, on February 23rd, Mel faxes Art again explaining that much has developed since he was first called to be on the show. And he's not fucking around. Apparently, he was attempting to drive up to his own property, only to be stopped at the service road by guys that seemed to be military. He was surprised when one walked to the window of his Suburban and explained that this isn't necessarily his property. Mel noticed heavy earth-moving equipment that he referred to as yellow gear moving around behind the soldiers. The non-uniformed soldier that approached him then threatened that it would be really easy to find a drug lab on the property. Mel says, "And I suppose I'm not supposed to tell anyone about this, right?" The guy responds, "Who'd even believe you?" Which, yeah, fucking fair enough, I suppose. Another apocryphal story comes from neighbors that have lived near the property much longer than Mel has. Basically, people have have seen a blacker than black beam shooting into the sky from the hole.
Okay.
Yep.
Like a black lightsaber.
Like the
no.
dark saber.
Well, I just pictured Minecraft. I pictured the beacons.
Oh yeah, the beacon. Yeah.
With just some like black tint
Yeah.
glass.
But like dark.
Yeah.
Like darker than that.
Yeah.
Like void.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
If it's real.
If it's real.
And this is a man speaking to someone calling into a radio show saying that someone told him.
To be fair, Art called him.
I understand. After he faxed in the information.
A very basic synopsis of what was happening.
How much time was in between that first
The
time?
first call and this call?
Yeah.
2 days.
Okay.
Why was he driving back to his property? Where was
He doesn't live on it.
He stated that at the beginning. He
Oh,
doesn't live
okay.
on
He
it.
doesn't live on it because snowstorms have collapsed most of the buildings on it.
So it's just land.
There's not
KKK.
water.
Not KKK. Okay.
there's not water on it, and the only power that they had was solar, which the snowstorm fucked up.
Thank you.
So, whoa, my notes are freaking the
I'm also confused on how the fuck, like, so
up.
much crazy shit has happened in just these 2 days. Like,
It actually kind of makes sense.
What do you mean all this shit?
like all the
the
shit that he's
soldiers?
about to tell us and everything like that. Obviously, soldiers kind of make sense, but them saying this isn't technically like, bitch, this is my fucking land.
I mean, the federal government could do whatever they want, whenever they want.
But it sounds like they did not identify themselves as the
Yeah,
federal
like-
government,
Oh, no, they did
or
not.
as anything.
They did not. The only indicator that, other than Mel said that there were a couple guys in uniform, but they weren't green fatigues of what he recognized as standard army.
Try that
So
shit
they
in
were
Wyoming.
they were wearing a
They
uniform.
were wearing a uniform, but the guy that talked to him was not in uniform at all. He was in common clothes, and like he was like everybody was armed.
Yeah, try that shit in Wyoming and you're catching a
I
40
don't know,
to
man.
the
This is militia
face.
country too.
Washington?
Yeah,
Really?
Washington State,
Oh.
Northern Idaho, that whole area. Yeah, big time.
Not as big as Wyoming, but yeah.
Well, not as big as Montana, but yeah. When Art gets Mel on the phone, he says, "When I spoke to you earlier, you were distressed. You seemed like you were a ball of nerves." Mel honestly still sounds a bit shooketh. For the record, I took
Shooketh.
all of this from the recordings of the radio show.
Okay.
So I basically like transcribed and synopsized all of it as I was listening to it at 1.5 speed, where everybody sounds like chipmunks. Mel explains that his weekend was pretty rough, as his neighbors called him to say that there were helicopters going around his property, an armed barricade, and Jersey barriers set up due to what they claimed was a plane crash, as well as mobile buildings like a temporary forward operating base being moved on his property.
You can't just do that.
You can't if you're the government.
No, you still can't. You can't. That's not how that works.
Okay.
If there's oil on someone's land, you can't just fucking run up there and be like, mine now. You have to buy people out of their
Chandler,
property.
Hey,
It's
Chandler,
not-
phone.
All of America was
Was
stolen
taken.
from people.
Yeah. Also,
I mean, yeah,
when we're not,
but this was only in.
if you have your phone, just while I'm talking, Google eminent domain. Just Google that,
Uh,
and then prepare to have everything you thought completely poo-pooed.
No. Like,
The government can totally just come take your fucking property because they want to. 1,000,000%.
Correct.
Anyone that says
like
that they
legally.
can't, there's a fucking government.
They make the laws, Chandler.
Boom.
Fucking, this country sucks ass.
Sometimes. Then the drug lab thing comes up. Art's like, "Well, you don't have a drug lab on the property," and Mel's like, "Well, I don't know." You guys are both like, "What the fuck?" No. Mel has he does have a small lab on the property where he distills and experiments with plants that he had imported from northern Nevada that are apparently an old Native American remedy for loads of different things. So it wouldn't take much for the U.S. government to say he was making meth and just seize his entire property under the RICO laws, which
Fair.
kind of seems like what they were just fucking doing anyway. But
Or Mel's just a crackhead.
listening to him, I don't get that idea. But
Is there any pictures of him?
no,
There's no pictures of the hole.
no, we're gonna know all of it, dude. Trust me. Mel's real estate agent had also left a message on his machine describing a very generous, interested party looking to buy the property. He said he had yet to get a hold of him because everything's been going on. Because again, this is a day and a half later.
Yeah.
So he talks to Art originally in the middle of the night on Friday into Saturday.
Yep.
And then on Monday, his whole fucking world has imploded.
Okay.
Art points out that it seems like a carrot/stick approach, to which Mel agrees. Because yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw you in fucking prison, or you're gonna take all this money. Either way, we're getting this shit.
Might as well take the money.
Yeah, facts.
Especially. Oh, you didn't say the price. Never mind.
Oh, I haven't said the price yet. So
But you know the price.
before all that, before this had happened, Mel was able to weigh the line in the hole. 17 pounds at 10 ounces per 1,000 yards. 18 pounds if you include the 1 pound weight on the end. It's 20-pound test. So the whole thing, the whole amount of line weighs 17 pounds or 18 pounds as he has it. So he fears that he's close to breaking the line because it's at 18 pounds. 20-pound test, you got a 20-pound limit. He once again confirms that he's down 80,000 feet, which is 15.152 miles or 24.384 kilometers. That's fucking down there, bud. He reiterates that there's no power or water on the property and the recent snowstorm had damaged most of the buildings. He says later that he had solar, but that's offline since the snowstorm. Mel said that since he can't get onto the property, and there's so much hubbub that he wanted to talk to more of the neighbors. One elderly man said that back. You okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were okay. One elderly man said that back 40 or 50 years ago, he remembered that there were some stone columns around Mel's hole. Mel pulled up a picture of Stonehenge on his power book, which is like an old laptop, to show the man. Like, he pulled up a picture of Stonehenge, and the guy was like, "Yeah, that's it, but without the stones on top, without the table stones."
Okay.
This
What?
dude who's lived
Yeah.
there forever, one of his neighbors, was like, "Yeah, there used to be stone columns." Someone was like, "Stonehenge?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, without all the connecting stones on top."
Like just one or?
No, stones, columns.
Okay.
Like whole stone,
Around.
but just not the top parts of
Okay.
Oh, Stonehenge. Yep. After discussing some of the coast-to-coast shows between Mel's appearances, specifically one regarding Harp, because he's talking about how, like, oh, isn't Harp looking for giant holes in the ground? Like, what could be happening here? Art reveals a listener-submitted theory to Mel about two naturally occurring iron veins being charged with high-voltage electricity from deep within the earth. The listener posits that it would theoretically create a natural time machine and tells Mel to lower a clock down there. So, that's cool. That's like, it's a fucking time machine. Yeah, science doing science things. We are doing science. Not really. Art makes a joke that even though there are tons of listeners willing to volunteer to go into the hole, but it doesn't matter because they've got your hole, is what Art tells Mel. Mel says a few minutes later that the only people he assumes that will be going down into the hole will be federal prisoners on a non-voluntary basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the federal government keeps the hole, that's probably exactly what is going to happen. There's even discussion of forming a militia and taking the land back by force, which, I mean, yeah, that's probably the route I would have gone.
I'd do it.
Until you hear the amount of money. Because it's stupid money. I'd like to point out that a guy named Scott from Kirkland, Washington, who said he's from the area and said that while he was in college in Ellensburg, which is the closest town, that one of his professors had coffee with him and told him about a seemingly bottomless hole. This was back in 1989 or 1990.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of corroboration there. Again, that
is actually from someone not Mel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, that's pretty good in Mel's favor. They take a ton of callers who all have different suggestions, ranging from having a media circus head out there to writing into the governor. Even a couple of guys that mentioned the Hollow Earth, which is definitely going to be an episode all its own. Like, don't even worry about that because Art gets a fax while he's talking to Mel that reads, "Sounds like the government is gonna take Mel's hole and give Mel the shaft," which was funny. There's even a woman that calls in from Reno, Nevada, that straight up tells Mel that he's making up stories. She's like, "I think you've got a real fine imagination, but none of this is real." And Mel's like, "I don't want to be I don't want to talk about this. Like, this is just some weird shit that's happening to me, and it is completely out of my control at this point." He says he would much rather be talking about the natural remedies that he has been working on.
Yeah.
Mel mentions that if this generous offer goes through, because again he doesn't have any specifics, he'll probably take the money and relocate to someplace geologically sound, then later speaks to his desire to move to Africa. So that was a thought in his head, or not, I'm sorry, I said Africa. I meant Australia. He's like, Australia would be cool. I'd like to move there.
Not really.
For Art.
Yeah, I know.
Or for Mel.
I know. I know.
Not for me. When the second call ends, Art apologizes for bringing the shitstorm down on Mel and says that if there are any political or media contacts Mel needs, Art will happily try to supply those. Keep in mind that Art called him, and now, less than 2 days later, the government has occupied the property and is threatening him.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts.
At this point, I'm just going to kind of try to hit highlights because
Well, how much did they offer?
there's a total of... Oh, I get into that. But there's a total of 5 calls between Art and Mel, and it's about 7 hours of recorded audio.
Okay.
And this shit gets knucking butts.
So you're not gonna say the amount that
For the autistic people, he said fucking nuts.
I'll tell you. It was $3 million a year.
$3 million a year?
Yeah, boy.
Yo, fucking take all of my
That's
shit.
what I'm saying. That's what Mel says. Call number 3 occurs in April of 2000 and starts off with Art exclaiming that he was red-faced because he believed the Blair Witch Project was real, insinuating that he's been taken by fiction before. I mean, if you watch it at the time, everybody kind of thought it. Oh, man.
I've never watched the Blair Witch Project. I've seen bits and pieces.
They recap the story, and Mel said that it was actually his wife's. So it's actually his wife's property that he's now broken up with.
Uh-oh.
So the story tweaks about the ownership of the land, but I do go into that as well. Mel goes on to explain that Ellensburg itself is a weird place. In fact, there's a whale's jawbone in a tree in town, and that's what the first picture that we're going to share with the audience is. So once we get it up on screen here, there we go. So that, which is kind of hard to see in the micro version, but we can see pretty clearly, that's a whale's jawbone growing out of a tree in Ellensburg, Washington. You can Google that, get a better picture for yourself. Clear as fuck.
A whale?
Whale.
I mean, if it was just placed there as the tree was growing, that's not like crazy. It's interesting.
This is the middle of Washington. This is not on the coast.
Okay, yeah, but like people can drive and like grab a whalebone, but also like how do we know that that's not just wood? That could just be like
it's
like wood.
It's not wood. You ever seen a tree grow like it's not
I've
wood.
seen some pretty weird
there
trees.
There are other pictures that I guess I should have included, but I didn't, so whatever.
Like how do you genuinely, how do you know that's not wood though? Like have you seen pictures that are like
there are other pictures of it, yes.
It's interesting.
It's very interesting. Also,
there are ways to get a jawbone of a whale to there.
Growing in the tree though is what Trevor suggested, right?
Yeah.
like whenever
like
that
tree
tree
is growing.
I mean that
Yeah.
tree
You said drive it there, Chandler. Look at how fucking big that tree is.
yeah. I'm not saying drive
When
the
that shit was
tree
put there
there.
were definitely not cars.
Yeah, no, that's like a 3,000-year-old tree.
It's not that old.
No,
It's
yes.
at least 100 years old though.
Trees are fucking a lot older than most people think. By the way, fun fact.
Not all
Fun fact.
trees.
Not all trees, but that's an old ass tree.
Okay, so you can go ahead and nuke the picture.
Ash tree.
So sure as fuck, whalebone in a tree. Another fax comes into Coast to Coast, pointing out that the Dr. Jonathan Reed alien encounter happened near Mel's neck of the woods, which is the second picture. And I'm going to keep reading. Just to touch on that one, Dr. Reed encountered and allegedly killed an alien that he described as half gray, half reptilian that had vaporized his dog.
Whoa, who said this?
Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Okay. We don't know who that is.
Yeah, I didn't do any super deep dive on him. But apparently, you're going to want to put it on the screen there.
Oh.
Apparently, this alien had vaporized his dog, so he beat the fuck out of it with some sort of blunt instrument. And there are stills of this reported alien that can be found pretty easily online. There is some credibility to this one because dude apparently gave a presentation to Congress about the ordeal. And ironically, the story first appeared on Art's show a couple of months before Mel's whole story did. But
And so what does this have to correlate with Mel's story?
that
Similar
it happened
area.
in the same region.
Like same neck of the woods?
Yeah.
Like same state or like actual same area?
I don't know. I don't know. Again, I didn't do a super deep dive on this one because I thought
Do you
it
know
might-
where these stills are from or where they claim to be from?
Apparently, these were taken by the doctor, and they're part of a film that he had taken after he beat the fuck out of this thing to death, and he took film of it, and these are stills from that film.
That's creepy.
I mean, as far as like, it kind of looks paper mache to me a little bit in some of the shots, but it also, there's something very unsettling about it.
Yeah, I agree. That bottom right corner it definitely looks like paper mache.
Right, but then all the other ones kind of don't look like they have the same texture.
Yeah. Oh, and if you look at the top right and the bottom left corner, like personally, like the structure of the face doesn't look the same.
Angle is just
Yeah, and that could very well just be it.
I mean the
interesting stuff happening there
the film might be out there.
geographically.
Didn't dive super deep into the badger hole on this one. I was too busy with Mel's hole.
I mean, this would have been cool.
Oh, well, don't worry. We can probably do an episode about it at some point. He states that the offer for the land had gone through for the perpetuity of his life. Basically, he was to receive $250,000 a month, which comes out to $3 million a year, until the day he died.
Fuck you, Mel. You're gonna get married. Your wife's gonna buy this land. You guys are gonna get divorced. This is now your land.
In the divorce decree, he was able to lease it forever from her until the day he died. So he then sublet it to, assumedly, the government.
Yo, fuck you.
So Mel took the money and ran.
Duh.
Duh. And he moved to Australia, ironically enough. He started a wombat rescue. Art points out that he had received several emails from Mel, leading him to 100% believe that Mel was indeed living in Perth, Australia. I'm not sure what these emails entailed because they didn't get into it, but Art was like, oh yeah, you were definitely in Australia. He believes that the wombat is making a comeback in part due to his contribution. Apparently, he started a whole fucking rescue down there and started bringing in all these. I mean, you're making $3 million a year. You can do a lot for some wombats, apparently. He also states that all arrangements for the move were taken care of completely. He took his dogs with him. Some of the plants that he was studying. And none of it was subject to Australian quarantine laws, which that's insane. Pets. So the Amber Heard trial was what, like, I don't know, 4 years ago at this point,
With
or some
Johnny
shit.
Depp. And,
Yeah. So she took their dogs to Australia and was fined like some outrageous amount. It was like $100,000 or something by Australia that Johnny paid.
Yeah.
But this dude, because of whomever orchestrated his move, none of that.
Well, it was also like 1997.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But Australia has always had you cannot bring shit into our country because it will fuck up the ecosystem.
And again, that is Mel telling Art over the phone that
Facts.
these are the cases.
Yep.
Like, what if this is some old ass man sitting in the basement in like fucking New Orleans or something, and he's like, let's fuck someone's day up. Like,
you know they're talking on the phone. They're not at a keyboard, right?
it's the same thing though. Like, out of everything that you found, how much credibility is there?
Why don't we see all of everything he has to share?
We will, but genuinely, like from your standpoint,
I'm not trying to jump out of the batter hole just yet, Chan.
Okay,
And I will let you make up your own mind, as I know Trevor has already made up his.
Oh,
No, not completely.
I'm a very open-minded person.
All right, that's facts. That's true. All right, so shall I continue? Art then asks how he went from being rich and living it up in Australia to back in the States and broke. He even points out that they were supposed to be on air together a few months earlier, something that Art had gone so far as to promote on his own show. Mel then lays out another pretty fucking crazy story. Starting on the day he was supposed to appear on Coast to Coast. He had helped his nephew move from the Olympia, Washington area to Tacoma, Washington. Then he was going to take the bus back to Olympia after returning the U-Haul they had used. There was a fight on the bus. Mel wasn't involved, but they stopped the bus. The transit authority detained the bus at the 512 Park and Ride, which is a mile marker, I guess, to ask questions of the passengers. He explained to the guy interviewing him that he needed to get back to Olympia. They were like, no problem, we've got the van ready to go. He gets in the van, and that's the last thing he remembers. Mel wakes up 12 days later in San Francisco, surrounded by bums in an alley, trying to get him to sing On the Road Again, because apparently he looks a lot like Willie Nelson. Art, again, he hits him with a, "Are you sure you're not fucking with me?" Not exactly that, but he was like, "No, come on. Really? Like, really? Really, Mel?" Mel swears. It's the truth. He was wearing the same clothes he had helped his nephew move in. His wallet, belt buckle, and back teeth had been stolen. And he had tape residue from what he assumes was an IV taped to his arm. He oriented himself, calls his nephew, who was freaking out because he'd been missing for 12 fucking days, and got a Greyhound bus back to Tacoma.
Is he poor now?
Yeah, he's pretty well broke.
And he's not getting $3 million.
He's not getting $3 million.
Does he ever answer why?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, at this point, he was still making money. I'm sorry. At that exact point, he was still making money.
But again, Chandler, it was at this point maybe 1998,
Yeah.
which is still before like.
No, this was 2000.
Oh, okay. But that's still before like the world that you know and grew up.
No, yeah.
True.
You
Mel,
don't have your wallet.
yeah, you're pretty well fucked.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Mel tells Art that he doesn't think that being on the show had anything to do with his alleged abduction. Yeah, telling this guy about this crazy fucking bottomless pit, to, you know, talking on air to potentially millions of people, that's not got nothing to do with what's going on with me now. That I find stupid, but I shall.
Maybe he considers Art a friend or something, and he's trying to like.
The way they talk, it does sound like they're friends. Like they've developed an actual buddy kind of relationship. Then the issue of the actual land ownership comes up. Whoops. Fully laying it out, Mel's ex-wife owned the land, but had leased it to him forever as part of their divorce settlement, like I said earlier. He said this was because he had helped put her through college. Once he got back to Tacoma, however, he finds out that someone was taking legal action against him on her behalf. Apparently, he was in violation of the terms of his lease with her by adding a septic system, paving roads, and adding underground fuel tanks to the property. All things that were done by whomever Mel was leasing the land to. Like, he didn't do any of that. But because that was being done on her property, he was in violation. So he explains that he was still amicable with his former wife and was even giving her $25,000 a month because he was profiting from the land. So a tenth of what he was making overall.
On her land completely.
It was hers legally.
And he didn't do anything to try to sell that or something.
Out of the $250,000 he was getting a month, he was giving
25 grand
25 to her.
Yeah,
A tenth.
if anybody ever wants to give me 25 grand a month, I'll happily take
I
it.
do some crazy
Yeah,
shit for
so
25
That's
so
a fuck ton of
so
money.
you buy land. I ask for it. You're like, oh, I guess I'm gonna sell it, and then you're just getting a.
No, he never sold it.
I understand. It's just
It
that's
was
kind of
taken from
shitty.
him
And then he
by
was given
force,
like
and
hush
then-
money.
and then they were paying him to shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah, but like giving I don't know. It just seems a little.
It definitely seems weird, but I mean, she was making 25 G's a month in 2000,
Did
which
we,
is like $1 million today. I'm
Did
just
we-
kidding. I didn't do
did
it.
we ever hear anything from her?
Hilarious.
No.
And then there's a commercial break in this call, and when it picks back up, Mel is upset about his belt buckle. 12 days, all my money, my teeth, fuck them. My belt buckle, though, pissed me off, apparently. He explains that it's one that he made out of a bent fork, like an eating utensil, some rocks that he had tumbled, and a few old coins. And apparently it had a big sentimental value because he was like straight up pissed about this belt buckle. Mel seems to believe that the plant he was attempting to make medicine from is the key to everything, and then list off a few attributes without actually naming the plant. I did a little bit of research based on what he said, and I believe he was growing lamatium. Perhaps a specific type of lamatium that only grows in very select regional places, but what I was able to find out, It does grow in the areas that Mel describes, and it's a plant that was successfully used by the Washoe tribe to treat any ailment resulting in a fever for a very long time. So Spanish flu hit, and there were a lot of reports by Western doctors at the time saying that the Washoe tribe was basically completely unaffected because they had this at their disposal.
Okay.
He also talks about people he's trying to get in contact with to corroborate his claims about the hole. The Mexican gentleman that used to throw tires that he had gathered from used car dealerships. He used to throw the tires into the hole. He's like, if this dude will get a hold of me, like it'll help corroborate.
So this man went to used car dealerships.
Yep.
Got tires.
Yep.
To go throw them in a hole in the woods.
Yeah. So I assume that he was paid to get rid of the tires.
Okay.
Right? So then he was like, hey man, can I just throw these in that fucking hole? And the guy before Mel was like, yeah, muchacho, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
So Mel was like, yeah, whatever, I don't give a fuck. That's why there are supposedly thousands and thousands of tires in this, because this was this dude's job.
Okay. So he was trying to get a hold of him.
He was trying to get a hold of him. A priest that we have literally zero information about. Mel is telling this to Art on air. He's like, these people. He's got their names, but Art's like, no, don't fucking say their names. A Hungarian fellow. So if you're from Hungary, I guess hit up Art Bell in the year 2000.
Not if you are from Hungary, if you're the fellow.
Yeah, like if you're the dude, if you're the dude who knows about the whole, hit us up. Fuck, I'd love to hear from anyone who has any sort of first-hand account about this. That would be.
I'll climb down in the fucking hole.
No, you will not.
Bet money.
Just keep listening.
You just wait, dude. In addition to this Hungarian fellow that he was trying to get a hold of, he was trying to find a man that he had sold a gun to, specifically a Walther P38, a gun that he ironically had dug up on the property. Just to touch on it, because I'm a huge gun guy, and I know you are too, Chandler. Unlike Mel, he specifically says that he's not. The Walther P38 was used by the Wehrmacht, Nazis, throughout the entirety of World War II and was intended to be a cheaper replacement to the Luger P08, which is your standard, what the Nazi officers would be using, without having to change the... Obviously. Without having to change from the 9x19 Parabellum cartridge. So, use the same ammo. They were like, these are cheaper to make. Let's roll with these. Art says, let's not name names, for obvious reasons. Mel states that the guy he sold his gun to had apparently straight up disappeared. He had spoken to his son, though, and his son said that the father had become obsessed with this gun. That supposedly never made a sound when you shot it. Was like integrally suppressed or some shit? I don't know. We don't get any more details on that because Mel's not a gun guy. The gun also did weird time-related things to radios, like pick up baseball games from 1953.
The gun?
The gun. If you put a radio near the gun, it would just pick up. Today, the New York Yankees are playing the
out of the gun?
Flyers.
Out of the radio?
Out of the radio, if it's near the gun. He also explains that some of the stuff... Science, doing science things. He also explains that some of the stuff he brought from the property to Australia, like rocks and whatnot, which normally wouldn't be allowed in the country, but they made an exception, were given to 3 men with advanced HIV and hospice care. And this shit cured them.
What shit?
The rocks that he gave them. He gave them rocks from the property.
How was he able to get rock from the property if he had been kicked off of the property as soon as...
No, apparently he still had stuff, like, in his truck and whatnot.
Okay.
That's what he said. He tells a story about how...
Okay, that's fine. The HIV guys were killed?
Yeah, they were no longer HIV positive. They were HIV negative.
Why'd you whisper that?
It's kind of a South Park joke.
Oh, okay.
Art asks why he came back to the U.S., and Mel states that he simply wanted to be closer to his family. But obviously he regrets that idea now. He did, however, say that he was surprised to see drinks and albums bearing the name of Mel's Hole, which there's even a singer called Mel Waters, who is not this guy. He's a country singer.
We sure it's not this guy?
Positive it's not this guy. This guy was in his 60s, the first time he called.
Okay.
He says his age later as they're talking, but whatever. He says he's like 68 or some shit in 2000. In 2000, I believe. Mel later reveals that the research facility that he had set up for the conservation of wombats in Australia had apparently been completely dismantled. All the employees were given severance checks, and all the money that he had left in his accounts had just disappeared. Then, this part was very weird to me. Mel asks on air anyone who had seen Marshall Applewhite in the Ellensburg area to contact him, because he believes that his hole had some strong connection to the Heaven's Gate cult, which is a cult that we will definitely cover. They all killed themselves. He provides the email melwaters@home, HOME.com as the point of contact. Back then, you could basically get any domain name you wanted. I was Dragon99 at USA.com at one point, I think. I don't remember. Now on to call number 4, which occurs on January 29th, 2002.
Okay.
So this is 2 years later. Mel reminds Art that last time they spoke, he was upset about the belt buckle. So he's like, I'm going to tell this story and it's going to explain why. So he had gone back to Ellensburg, where he had sold the 9 other belt buckles that he had made, and managed to track down a gentleman wearing one of these buckles. He explained a bit of the weirdness, and that he was the one that fabricated the buckles in the first place, and asked the man if he could just take a look at it. Because, as Mel said, why would you take a man's belt buckle? The man agrees, and so they start poring over this buckle. On the front were 3 coins, one featuring Winston Churchill, one featuring Joseph Stalin, and the final one had Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said that he had put those specific coins together as a way to commemorate the Yalta Conference, wherein those 3 guys decided to exclude France from post-war negotiations, as well as the fact that Germany should pay reparations for World War II. So, kind of a big meeting, you know. The 1943 Roosevelt dime on the buckle should not exist, as the mint doesn't make coins for presidents until they've died. Franklin Delano Roosevelt died April 12th, 1945. Shocker, Mel says that he found an envelope containing 10 of these dimes near the hole. In addition to that, it was mint struck with a B. Now, the mints in America that produce coins are labeled D for Denver, Colorado, P for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, S for San Francisco, California, and W for West Point, New York. There has never in the history of the United States been a mint that stamps anything with a B.
What would that even be?
This coin shouldn't exist.
Okay.
This is really what it boils down to. So the guy that ended up with the belt buckle takes this coin to a big time coin collector. Go ahead.
So if he didn't know that, if he just wanted to look at the coins or the belt buckle or whatever,
Well, he didn't know.
that they were interesting, then
No.
how does he remember finding those specific 10 in an envelope?
I mean, I'm sure he remembers like where he got the coins, because like they're like, it's a dime, but he's like, oh yeah, I used the dimes that I found on the property for that. The other coins he probably had to do some actual hunting for, because where are you going to find a coin in America with Joseph Stalin on it? So he made 10 belt buckles. He kept one. He sold 9 other ones.
Of these specific dimes that he found in an envelope for some reason, but he didn't know they were special until now he's looking at them.
Right. Actually, at this point, he doesn't even know that they're special. It's not until later when the guy that owns the belt buckle that he had made calls him.
Okay.
Okay. So the guy that ended up with the belt buckle
Mm-hmm.
takes it to a big time coin collector, and the coin collector is like awestruck.
And the guy with the belt buckle talked to.
Mel.
So Mel went to the place that he sold the buckles to originally and was like, hey, do you have the contact information for anyone that bought any of these? And they were like, I mean, yeah, here's this dude, because we know he's local. Here you go. So he goes and he finds this dude. He's like, yo, that belt buckle, I made that shit. Can I see it? yeah, this looks just like the one they took from me. I don't know what the fuck's special about it. If you find anything out, like, I don't know, check the coins maybe. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. Call me. Right? The guy takes it to a coin collector. Coin collector is like, this shit's fucked. I'm gonna give you a ton of money for this for this coin. This 1943 Franklin D. Roosevelt dime. And the guy's like, I don't know. If it's really that crazy, I don't think I want to part with it. So the next day, the Treasury Department pays the guy with the buckle a visit, and they confiscate the coin. Yep. Mel also states that he can't track down his former wife at all, because, of course, poof, she's gone. He's like, I don't know if she's going by a different name or anything. I can't find her. Don't know where she's gone. She probably took the money and ran. Because if it's her property, she's probably getting that $250K a month now. The next part lends quite a bit of credence to the story, in my opinion at least. So TerraServer was essentially Microsoft's precursor to Google Earth. Now Mel claims that the spot that would have revealed the location of his hole was completely redacted, covered out in white at the time of his conversation with Art.
This one in 2002.
This one in 2002, yeah. Or this may have been 2000. I'm not sure. It was very hard for me to track down the actual dates. But during a commercial break, Art checks. And sure as shit, he finds a spot. If I get into it.
Do we have like any way that we could check it?
No, it's
like there's
the servers aren't active anymore, but the info has been downloaded, and so private people do have the information from this time, but like I couldn't find it. He said all you do is go to Ellensburg, Washington, and zoom out until you see a white spot. It's been expunged, Mel says. Don't go there. I don't want to be responsible for anybody, just don't go there. Art finds it southwest of Ellensburg during a commercial break and says he's found about a 4x8 square mile that is completely whited out. Mel says that's about the right area, so there you go. Art. What?
That's about the right area? Like he showed him where it was on the map? Or it was 4x8 miles?
They're talking on the phone. No, 4x8 miles is the area of the satellite image that has been redacted. Okay. Art then explains that a news crew had been to the area attempting to find the hole and had only found loads of tracks from heavy equipment and what looked like military blueprints. So slightly more corroboration, because that comes from somebody that told it to Art. That wasn't Mel. Now for the native connection. Apparently a tribe in northern Nevada contacted Mel about his herbs in the early summer of 2001. They heard the coast-to-coast story and reached out, asking about his specific plants, but also because they knew of another bottomless hole located on... Chandler is attempting to see if he can see anything redacted.
Southwest.
That's what he said.
Wouldn't be.
Yeah, it wasn't Google Earth, and also because they had Earth-moving equipment, Mel theorized that they would make the hole invisible from the sky almost first thing. He said that on air. Located on BLM property by the Basque people, who are very interesting themselves, as they're one of the only groups of people to have a completely distinct language, meaning that their language doesn't appear to be an offshoot of any other known language, which is kind of crazy. And they were using this BLM land for raising sheep.
Okay.
The Basque hole is a bit different, though. It's in a location that doesn't even have telephone poles. Mel describes it as pristine, but the Basque have apparently inhabited since the 1800s. You cannot see this hole until you're right up on it, according to Mel. This one is also 9 foot 9 inches in diameter, but it has a metal collar that goes around it. It sticks up out of the ground about 2 feet and is 2 feet wide around the edge. I'm not sure if it's like a flange or if that is solid all the way around it. Were you listening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the metal seems to go down as far as the eye can see. Mel dropped a wrench on the collar. That's what he refers to it as, is the collar. And it didn't seem to make any sound. They tried to replicate this. They did. They banged on it. No sound coming off this
And where is this
big
hole?
metal. This is in northern Nevada. The collar also seems to radiate heat, so much so that when they camp in the area, the Basque shepherds simply pull their sleeping bags up to the edge of it and they stay warm all night. But it's not hot to the touch. They tried to cut into this collar with a hacksaw and they couldn't even scratch it. So already, weird shit, right? So Mel, being the inquisitive guy that he is, decides to run some experiments. They used a winch to lower a bucket of ice down into the hole about 1,500 feet. That, I believe that was supposed to be, no, that was feet. That was feet for this one. As a control, they kept another bucket of ice on the surface. They waited for the control bucket to melt and pulled the one up from the hole. Ice hadn't melted. And in fact, it wasn't even cold anymore. He said it felt like the contents of a silica desiccant packet, like the packing packets. You know, silica!
Yeah.
He said it felt like that rather than like ice. It wouldn't even melt in your hand. So they were like, well, let's try to melt this stuff. They put it in a bucket. They left it in the bucket. They put it over a fire. The ice combusted. The ice, that's in air quotes there, combusted. And it's like he's trying to explain it, but he's like, that's not even the right word. Like it burned as if there was an accelerant, but it wasn't like whoosh, it combusted.
Okay.
He's trying to explain shit that he can't understand, so I imagine that would be very difficult. One of the 5 guys that was there took some of this stuff home and put it into his wood-burning stove. And it's still burning, quote-unquote, months later. Mel said that this phenomena only occurred about a third of the time that they put the ice in the bucket. The rest of the time it would come up normal ice.
So fucking weird.
So fucking weird. So then, they lowered a sheep into this hole. In lieu of the Basque guy in his late 20s that was like, put me in the hole, much like you would do.
Probably early.
Maybe. Mel explains that the Basque are a fearless people. The sheep did not even want to get close, much like Mel's dogs. And like every animal that had been around Mel's hole. So some of the other people in attendance stunned the sheep, they punched it in the head, and they started lowering. It started freaking out before they even got it into the crate to get it into the hole. They like knocked it out to stun it, and they were like, all right, let's get this thing loaded up, and it started losing its fucking mind. Once it passes the precipice of light, though, to where light no longer hits it, they can't hear anything. So this thing was freaking out, banging around a bunch inside this crate. They're lowering it into the hole. They can't hear it anymore. From, you know, just
100 feet.
if that. Like, you
Yeah.
still definitely be able to hear it. The rope tied to the crate is still moving. Assumedly, the sheep is still fighting. By the time they get to about 700 feet, which is 213.36 meters, they can't feel any more movement on the line. Once they hit the 1,500 foot mark, there was a static electrical feeling. So once they ran out of line, like they let it hang there, and everybody kind of got this like feeling that was standing around the collar. So they leave the sheep down there for a minute, and then they wind it back up. No movement on the line as they wind it back up. When it gets up to the top, the sheep is dead. So one of the Basque men decides to throw the now expired sheep onto a. He puts a tarp on a table, and they're like, let's autopsy this bad boy. Because there were no obvious external injuries. What killed this sheep? As this shepherd, who obviously knows his way around the butchering process of a sheep, gets into it, they all see that the sheep looks like it's been cooked internally. They get through the muscles and into the organs, and it looks like the entire organ cavity of this animal is now filled with a gelatinous tumor. Like a symbiote-flavored Haribo Gold Bear. That's my description of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. They remove the tumor, again in air quotes, that's about 2 feet, which is 60.96 centimeters long, and they see that it's moving. This tumor that they just cut out of this dead sheep is moving. But it's like a pulsing rather than like a heartbeat or anything like that. They cut the tumor open, and it looks like a fetal seal, like a baby
Like a
seal,
fetus.
like a baby seal with human eyes. Again, covered in the black symbiote looking gelatin gooey disgustingness. Inside the tumor of this dead sheep that they lowered into the hole was a fucking fetal seal with human eyes. I wrote that again just to really drive that shit home at how absolutely batshit insane it sounds. It was connected to the tumor by an umbilical cord type thing. And this creature appeared to be studying them as hard as they were studying it. It then detached itself from the tumor and started to move around a bit on the table. Mel said he's not religious, but felt like he was having a religious experience. The seal struggled to the edge of the table and looked like it was going to fall, so Mel picked it up and put it on the ground. He said there was an ozone-smelling slime left on his hands. It looked like the same slime from inside the body cavity of the sheep, which would check out. But he did point out it was very strange that it smelled like ozone because he was expecting something very putrid.
Yeah.
And he smelled it. He's like, I smelled that before. That's ozone. O3. Very strange. This thing was on the ground at this point, staring compassionately, his word, at every person there individually. And the
fetus?
The fetal seal thing was staring at all of these people. And this took place
human eyes.
with human eyes, compassionate human eyes. For about 2 hours, this goes by. But they're all just like, what the fuck? And the seal's like, yes, tonight, you. It doesn't say anything, but like that's kind of that's the vibe that they are all getting because they're all scared. By the time the 2 hours ish is up, they're kind of more comfortable with this thing. They're like, it doesn't seem like it wants to hurt us. We're not getting like any evil vibes off it, I guess. It then starts waddling back toward the hole. Mel walks over to it, picks it up, and gets the sense that it wants to be put on the collar. So he's like, all right, here you go, little guy. He says it appears to look back at them and nod before falling into the hole. Of course, nobody had a camera on him because Art's like, did you take pictures? Did you take videos? He's like, this isn't my property. This is something that they invited me to come do. I felt out of place even asking. If I'm able to get back out to this hole, I will take pictures.
Why didn't he take a picture of his own hole then?
I don't know. Maybe
Also,
Mel didn't like his own hole. He was self-conscious of his own hole.
Also, the first thought of seeing the baby seal with eyes or whatever, right?
With human eyes.
You don't want to like figure out what that is.
So
you don't want to like put it in a bucket and be like, we're gonna find you out,
fucker. So apparently this thing had like a very calming presence to these guys because originally they were freaked out, and then by the time 2 hours had passed, they were like, no, this thing's totally cool. Like, yeah, that's Seal, man. He's gonna sing us "Kiss by a Rose" here in a minute. Like, they were just cool with it. They discussed amongst themselves for the bit, Mel and the Basque shepherds. Do they bury the sheep? No, of course not. They decided to throw it and the tumor into the hole from the tarp that they were.
Because why would you want any evidence?
Well, yeah, you don't want evidence of something like this happening. No, you just want to throw everything into these crazy holes that nobody can find.
When at this point you believe that government-like people have like basically ruined your life because of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mel then goes on to explain that in late August, before going to Nevada, he was diagnosed with a particularly aggressive form of esophageal cancer and was given about 6 months to live by the specialist. He claims that he is now completely cancer-free. He believes this seal cured him. Before he left Nevada to go back to Washington to see the same doctors that had diagnosed him with cancer in the first place, because he said he started feeling better, so he's like, I want to see what's going on with this. He met with one of the Basque elders, a man he assumed was in his 80s. He explained that the hole had been used as a religious site since the time he was young. And when Mel regaled him with the tale of the fetal seal tumor thing, he seemed to kind of expect it, and he was just like, yeah, no, totally. That makes sense to me. Before retiring for the night, the elder took Mel's hand and put something in his, like did like the drug deal thing and was like, hey, give me that. Boom. Put something in his hand. And he just told him, put that away. And so Mel walks off, and then one of the other guys is like, hey, man, don't you want to see what that is? Like, what the fuck? And Mel's like, yeah, I guess so. So he pulls it out, and it's another 1943 Roosevelt dime with a B stamped on it that apparently the elder had found near the hole. Mel asks for anyone who can help explain any of this bonkers shit that's happened to him to email him. This time, he's got a new email address. It's melwaters@attbi.com.
ATTBI.
Yeah, it doesn't spell anything. It's not a domain name anymore. I don't really know. It sounds like an AT&T derivative from back in the day. He seems to be legitimately pleading for anyone that can provide any theories, like anything at all. He's like, just I can't explain it. Somebody call me and just tell me or like email me and tell me what they think is going on. If it's reasonable, awesome. Put my mind at ease a little bit. He signs off telling Art that he's going to dip away from civilization for a while, but will reach out again. Art begs him to get any sort of photographic evidence, anything that can corroborate any part of this story. Mel said that he's definitely going to take a picture of the dime and send it to Art. He's like, I have it in my hand right now. Like, as soon as I'm near a camera, I will do this for you. Now on to the final call. The final call between Mel and Art was sometime in late 2002. I couldn't find the exact date. Art starts out by saying, he's not dead, guys. Seemingly surprised. And I found that funny. Mel answers the phone and states that he's in his nephew's apartment, assumedly the one in Tacoma. Mel does say that he had a pretty close brush with death around Memorial Day, but he doesn't expand on that at all. He does say that he hasn't had contact with the Basque for a little while, but that the area is now under almost constant helicopter surveillance. He then tells a story about what happened to the transmuted ice that the Basque man had taken and put into his wood stove. The guy kept noticing, like, so this dude, right? He takes a bucket of this ice, like not like a pail sized bucket, but like a small bucket.
Yeah.
He puts it in this wood burning stove, and apparently it kept him warm. It just kept going.
Yeah, it does that.
Yeah, somehow, just defying the laws of everything. The guy kept noticing that his tiny cabin was incredibly dry, so he put a kettle with some water on top of the stove to act as a humidifier. Makes sense to me, checks out. The steam from this kettle was being absorbed into the stove. Heat rises,
Yeah.
so that defies the laws of what we understand as physics. He comes home one day and notices that the stove has sunken down into the floorboards of the cabin. A couple inches. He's like, that's weird. This guy just extends the stovepipe up to still be able to use the stove, but made no attempt to bring it back up to floor level. Then he leaves home for about a week and comes back to find that his cabin was just fucking gone. Replaced with wood dust, as if the moisture had been completely sucked from the wood.
And this dude told Mel this.
And
Yeah.
and he lived inside of his cabin with this ice inside of the wood burning stove for months without anything besides it giving heat.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, I just like clarifying, figuring out I
definitely
understand what's
clarify,
being
because
said.
I told you this shit gets crazier and crazier. There's like multicolored dust. The guy apparently told Mel, it was this guy telling Mel this, and he's like, I can't explain it. There's the color of the wood dust that's around matches the same color as the furniture I had, and now there's like a hole that's getting deeper where my cabin once was. The same guy goes back a month later. Oh, I did say he moved in with his brother, right?
Mhm.
After that?
No.
Oh, yeah, okay, so fucking cabin's gone. He's like, fuck it, guess I'll go move in with my brother. So he goes back to the spot about a month later, and now there's just a very smooth rectangular hole. It was a rectangular wood stove, about 5 feet, which is 1.524 meters down, with the stove at the center, still radiating heat. This is the point that the Basque man reaches out to Mel. After all of this has happened, he's like, this is crazy. Not like my they were ramshackle cabins because they were basically squatting on this land. They
Yeah.
don't own the land. They're like, whatever, I'll build another cabin. Doesn't matter. Mel in turn reaches out to one of his contacts in Australia from his
Time
time there.
there.
And the guy pleads. He's like, give me the location. I need to send someone out to research this. Like I have, colleagues in the U.S. I can get someone out there. A couple days later, a research team, in air quotes, is dispatched to the location. The man that had a cabin, because he doesn't anymore, it's gone. He watches this team come in and swears that they're all military. They start bringing in heavy equipment. One crane, a bigger crane, multiple massive cranes. Then they load the stove up onto the biggest truck this guy had ever seen. The burning ice and stove are never seen again. So I imagine an earth mover like what you used to drive when you worked at the
Like
mine.
a haul truck.
Like a haul truck. Like the biggest fucking truck ever. And they were like, we need this to support the sheer weight or density of this fucking thing because it took multiple massive cranes to get it out of the hole. And apparently it had started congealing inside of the hole into some amalgam of who the fuck knows what. The Basque in the area also report having seen the seal creature since Mel was last at the Basque hole. Mel tells Art that one of his regular guests, a man by the name of Red Elk, describes these creatures but calls them rock flyers. And he says that they're creatures that exist in between worlds, also in air quotes. The Basque have figured out how to communicate with this creature by, ironically, using a boombox. Apparently, they could hear this thing speak an actual language through the radio of the boombox, but could only hear like beeps and boops when they recorded it and tried to play it back. The seal warned them about the burning ice. That is dangerous because we, humanity, can't comprehend it. He then explains why he can't get a picture of the coin to Art. Much like the Basque hole, your eyes can't perceive it from more than like 15 feet or 4.5 meters away. Like it just flickers out of existence when you're looking at it from that far. And photographing it only shows the plastic sleeve that it's in, which is convenient. Like it really is. I've got this crazy thing that defies what we understand, but I can't get a picture of it to you.
I feel like at this point, if I was Mel,
Yeah.
I would maybe try to
Physically
physically
get it.
to this man who
especially
can
because-
actually like
So get this right. Guess where the Coast to Coast AM radio station was that are broadcasted from?
just tell me.
Nevada.
So
Which is where he said he was
where he
at
said
a
he was.
time.
Well, no. He had gone back to Washington at this point.
Yeah.
finish this so that we can discuss a little bit.
So the whalebone in the tree in Washington was supposedly left there by the Basque people who they legitimately were renowned whalers. But he was told by the Basque, we put that there hundreds of years ago, or like in the 1800s or whenever, as a reminder about that spot, assumedly because of Mel's Hole. And that wraps up all the recorded interactions between Mel Waters and Art Bell.
So Trevor was right in the aspect of the well jaw was put there.
The whalebone,
Yeah.
yes, but it's still really weird that that's there.
I mean, but someone
It's
admitted
inland-
that.
it's inland about 90 miles,
Okay.
and it was put there in a time long before it was easy to move something like that.
And where's that at?
That's in Ellensburg.
In correlation to Mel's Hole?
It's
does
the
it
town
s-
closest
It's
to
the
Mel.
town closest to Mel's Hole.
Okay.
So I've got some counterpoints that I would just like to put forth. Art Bell is an entertainer, and the man had a fascination with incredible stories. I'm just saying it because I'm sure we're all thinking it. Mel Waters does not exist. At least no one with that name has ever lived in that region of Washington or owned land in Washington. Although Waters is a very common name in that region. So it's theorized that, it might be a pseudonym or he might have just changed his name. I'm not sure. The entire story is kind of preposterous from inception, but doesn't start out insane. The insanity grows, right? Which is what you expect from a true story, but also a good story. Good storytelling. I will point out that,
Or
somebody lying.
Or someone literally
literally crazy.
crazy.
Okay, true. I will point out that if it's all bullshit, the person playing Mel keeps his story and vernacular very consistent. and he emotes very well. You have something to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Crazy people who completely believe their own craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, their story doesn't change, and it's very consistent because that's their
Because they
truth.
believe it. Yeah,
well,
that's their reality.
also from where I'm sitting, it's consistently bullshit.
Like,
Like
If you remember though, Art called him. So
yeah,
after
but
he had put something
he sent a
in.
fax,
Yeah.
and then he concocted this whole story.
there were a couple people who,
corroborated some stuff.
by like
But like just
some stuff, like
the jawbone.
I'm just
Like
saying, like that seems like a huge waste of time. And yeah, he could have been crazy. Who knows? But
hashtag drug test Mel.
also
hashtag find out who Mel actually is.
and that other guy who was talking about like how he had spoken to a professor or something 10 years prior, like
Yeah.
even 20 years prior. Do you remember conversation you had 20
If
years
it's
ago?
about some weird shit that you had with a professor that was like, if it was out of the norm for that to even happen, then yeah, maybe.
Also,
I remember the stuff that I like, some of the crazy
are you
conversations
trying to
that
read more?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
The audio is a big deal. A lot of people say that from episode 3 on, Mel is a different person altogether. It's not. I don't think that that's the case. I was listening to another podcast that I'm not going to name, but he had sent the audio files from before and after to a buddy that was a forensic analyst for some police force, and he was like, "No, it's the same dude. It's just different technology." Because the jump between 97 and 2000, when it comes to cell phones specifically, is pretty fucking huge.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to debunk that one real quick. As far as the satellite pictures, the whiting out was apparently a fairly common glitch at the time, according to one of the former lead engineers of the program. But I don't buy that one for 1 second. I'm going to read directly from Wikipedia here regarding some of the investigations that took place in the Mels Hole. In 2002, a group of 30 people led by Gerald Osborne undertook an expedition to find the hole, but were unable to locate it, which would line up with what Mel said about the government would have covered it up. Local news reporters who investigated the claims found no public records of anyone named Mel Waters ever residing or owning property in Kittitas County. According to the State Department of Natural Resources geologist Jack Powell, the hole does not exist and is geologically impossible. A hole of the depth claimed would, quote unquote, would collapse into itself under the tremendous pressure and heat from the surrounding strata, said Powell. Powell said an ordinary old mine shaft on private property was probably the inspiration for the stories, and commented that Mel's Hole had established itself as a legend based on, quote unquote, no evidence at all. Geologist Pat Pringle doubted Waters' stories about having lowered 80,000 feet of fishing line into a hole, saying that the heat of the earth would have snapped it before it could ever reach such a depth.
Well, if we're talking about craziness and talking about weird time shit, it could be a portal in the past, and so maybe that's why the heat didn't break the line.
Right. And then obviously the coin just you can't photograph it and you can't see it after a certain distance away from it. Like that seems really convenient, but also kind of fits in with the whole what the fuck. Because science stuff. Chandler is looking very hard for this.
Also, Chandler, people have literally gone
to there
And not found
and
shit.
not found it.
Okay.
You're not gonna find it on Google Earth. I assure
You're not gonna
bud.
find it with a Google.
Yeah. Okay, so like, what do you guys think?
I'm a very open-minded person, I think. But like, motherfucker, take a damn picture of something.
Something. It's that like
Something.
you're telling this crazy ass story, and yeah, 1997, sure, but 2002.
Even in 97, no. Take a fucking picture.
Even in 2002, they had like flip phones with cameras.
They did, yeah, for sure.
And if he was getting $3 million a year,
The iPod came out in 2005. Like,
Do you realize how many years it took before an iPod had a camera, though? It wasn't until like 2008.
oh, I didn't know that. But like, There's
It
cameras.
was there.
The first iPhone came out in 2009.
There was cameras in the 70s. Like, motherfucker,
No, yeah, the camera technology was definitely like
it wasn't the Bigfoot footage where you're fucking hiking around with an 80-pound film camera cranking it.
on
like,
a fucking horse.
yeah.
Yeah, big time.
From the story, yes, I do believe that crazy shit could happen.
Uh-huh.
And I do believe that, the government or a government-like agency absolutely could have taken the land
For sure.
like that.
For sure. Yeah.
But I also believe that the little levels and then the higher levels of insanity
Mm-hmm.
kind of feels to me like the progression of legitimately psychosis.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like-
Okay, how about you're out of the badger hole? You said you're willing to believe a lot, but
But like, this is a fucking stretch and a half. There's more footage of like less crazy shit.
people have gone and like looked for this thing a
And
lot.
you can't find it.
Yeah, they can't find it.
Yeah.
But he did also say that
And if the government did get there, they would have covered it up.
exactly.
Like it wouldn't have.
built a
It wouldn't
house
be
over it
found.
or
Yeah,
something.
you would not be
Findable.
able to ever find it on any sort of satellite imagery because
Sure.
it would be completely obscured.
Absolutely.
Or they would just take the satellite imagery and doctor it.
But also,
that's like
all of
NASA
those people
does.
going out trying to find it, you're not going to tell me that none of the 9 different groups of neighbors that Mel said he
Yeah.
talked to, they didn't find any of those people to talk to.
Yeah, so that is a big hit for Mel, is that like none of your neighbors came forward, and it is completely possible that they just didn't want to get government fucked like Mel did.
For 3 years, you're making $3 million a year.
A little less than that, but yeah, a little less than that amount of time, not that amount of money.
Hey, you're gonna have the technology to unbury all of this if you wanted to.
No,
Yeah.
$3 million a year. You think you can take on the federal fucking government?
No, but you definitely, whenever you go to that new hole in Nevada,
He didn't know about the new hole while he had the money.
it was after he got back from Australia.
Yeah,
So he
it was
had
after
money.
he got back from Australia.
So he
and
had
then
money.
He got his fucking teeth stolen.
Okay.
His belt buckle, his wallet, and,
And
he
then
was
all of
missing
his
for 12 days.
and then all of his
And then
bank
all of
accounts
his
were
bank
in.
account was
Yeah.
drained, and that's when he found out that his wife was taking him to court.
So convenient. Back to
And
what
it
I
is
said.
very-
Like
the whole thing is very convenient. And
you gotta like that. Again, there's so much shit out there that is less like interesting, that has so much more evidence. And
sure.
even if there was a picture of this coin,
uh-huh.
the fuck's that have to do with a hole, dude?
There is a
Well,
there's a coin,
and
but it's
it-
very obviously photoshopped. There is a picture of the coin, but it's clearly a fake.
And it would be a deal because it's an impossible coin.
Right.
Like that coin, like that president at that year, like none of that is possible in this timeline.
In this timeline,
at least
in this dimension. Okay, so you're out of the badger hole is you think that it was the story of multiple psychoses happening all at once. A confluence of crazy, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
It might have started with a local legend of that area, and then he heard about it
Or
maybe.
mine shaft is one of the researchers
and
suggested.
his
Or he had a well on his land and was like, "Oh, I wonder how deep this goes," and then just like,
and then snapped.
yeah,
I mean, could have been. He was he was distancing, or he and his wife were separating throughout a lot of this.
my out of the badger hole is this motherfucker was on something
Right.
or literally going insane.
Okay.
And like, it is true, the more and more you say shit, the more and more you will believe it, no matter what it is, no matter how
Yeah.
insane you are. So I do believe that he believes some of this,
I mean,
whoever the fuck he is.
the way to tell a good story is to make yourself believe any of it. That's the best liars in the world will tell you that.
Like from what you said, it doesn't seem like he was just trying to, do a joke or something.
Yeah, and like listening to it, the dude sounds very genuine.
Yeah.
He's an older guy, and like the way that he speaks to art is very much like I can't explain any of this shit, and I'm at my wit's end with a lot of this, and I am coming to you for help. And then they develop this like friendship over the years.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Okay,
unfolds.
but if
You've talked to crazy people
I
who
have.
believe
Yeah.
their truths are the real truth,
right,
and there's
I
no
have, yes.
changing that.
Yes, I
And
have.
like they're also like, yes, please help me. Please get this chip out of my head that's been implanted.
Who said that?
Shout out Brent. I probably shouldn't have name dropped him, but he'll never watch.
Who is that?
It's
Someone.
someone from before you were born, actually.
Okay. But like also, if you truly wanted help, you'd truly get some sort of evidence. Whether that's a fucking picture, whether that's you're in Nevada, like go see this home slice and show him a coin.
Yeah, especially if you're talking to him, you have it in your hands.
Yeah, like
go, do that.
or be like, yo, I'm in Nevada, come check this hole out that we just found.
Okay, my out of the badger hole is I think that there was legitimately a weird hole on this dude's property. I'm not sure about the bottomless aspect of it. It may have been a well, like you said, Trevor, but
Yeah.
like you said, but you know what? No, I'll go so far as to say that everything from the first couple of calls completely 100% factual. Right? He was pulling up coins that shouldn't have existed. He found a gun that gave off weird radio frequency signals. He fucking couldn't shine a light past, like he couldn't see anything except dirt past the light of a flashlight. And they do talk about that. Like Art is like, dude, you got to explain this to me more. Like, get into it. And every time they talk, he's like, retell the story for everybody. And everything's pretty consistent throughout the whole time. But again, just like you said, if you're crazy, you believe that story is true, then that's what you're going to perpetuate the entirety of.
I'd
when you
also
say that.
like to relate to almost every single one of the viewers right now. My first thought, if I have a big ass hole that seems endless,
If Chandler's big ass hole is endless.
yeah, I'd drop like a flare down there,
Yeah.
or a firework, or
They
literally
drop-
They drop refrigerators and cows down this fucking thing.
Okay, but
and
that
they've never
doesn't-
heard a sound.
that doesn't light it up.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Like you can't you
They
feasibly,
might have tried that and not talked about it.
I mean, potentially.
I mean, I definitely would have been like, all right, we're
Glow stick.
Yeah.
getting crazy.
Yep.
Like, I'm gonna light
Flamethrower.
a fucking candle and drop that bitch down there.
Yeah.
But I assume just like with the flashlights that he was shining down there, pretty high lumen flashlights for the time. He's like, nope. Once the beam's out, like it just goes. And so, not to harp on TV shows like I seem to always do on this podcast, but like the Outer Range, it depicts it as just a
Spoilers.
no, because it's on like the
Yeah, but
poster. Okay, yeah, a slight spoiler. It just depicts this hole in the ground, like a perfectly circular just hole in the ground, nothing around it, and it's just like on a prairie. And that's not what this was. This is the high desert. This thing had a retaining wall around it, and then a lid on top of it, and then stone down 15 feet. And the other one had a giant steel collar that apparently at one point had a lid that affixed itself to it.
metallic.
Yeah, I said steel. It's metal of some kind, not steel, because well, they couldn't scratch it or dent it or make it make a noise. I think that he started this story as something that was actually happening to him, and I would even as so far up to like the Australia thing. Like I think that probably happened. I think the fact that there is no evidence kind of gives some credibility to this story. Because if the government really was doing any of this shit, they would erase this guy.
Okay. In that note, though, if some American dude just moved to Australia and opened up a multi-million-dollar wombat facility,
Yeah.
that would be known, even through the government.
I mean,
That would be known.
Like you'd be able to Google that.
yeah.
well, okay, see, so you
That
are correct.
mysteriously, after 2 years, just completely erased. Like there's nothing of it
I mean,
anymore.
yeah, like why
Yeah, but
why
it-
did the people that Mel worked with not get a hold of art? Or, you know, like there's more questions than answers, as we do generally seem to have on this podcast when we're talking about mysterious shit. Mel, dude, if you're out there and you happen to ever watch this episode, email us. Don't leave a comment because you will get flamed. But I want to know. I need the truth. I think Art needed the truth before he died. I think a lot of people want to know what the fuck was going on with your hole, bud.
I'd even
What's the email address to email you, though?
Yeah, okay, so if you want to email us, it's badgerholepodcast@gmail.com. We're not going to change that to any sort of crazy URL ever, because those cost money, and we broke.
I'd even be willing to say, like you had said, yeah, he had a hole that was pretty deep,
Oh yeah,
maybe,
Mel had a deep hole.
that he dropped shit down and so on and so forth.
Putting lots of stuff in his hole.
Just turned off?
No, it's going around, and it's like, it's a whole...
No, my bathroom light was on.
No, it wasn't.
Swear
it's
it
been
was.
off the entire time since the
I
ad
can
break.
I can show you
No, you can't. Because
Swear.
I've been looking at it
Okay,
going,
well,
why
we
the
can
door's
go
open?
and
It
do
doesn't
that
matter.
after the fact.
Doesn't
After
matter.
this
We're trying to
video-
wrap this up.
at the end of this video. I'm gonna put on a clip of 5 minutes ago when that light was on.
He's going to review the footage and go, oh, I was wrong.
No, I won't.
Okay,
And
great.
we'll do it
Doesn't
on
matter. None
camera.
of this matters. We're talking about Mel's
Sorry,
hole.
spooky shit
We're talking about
happening in
Mel's
my
hole.
fucking house.
It's not spooky when it's not, like...
It happened.
happen.
Like
All right.
Mel's hole.
Mel's hole happened, bud.
We don't know that.
He had at least a couple of holes.
You don't know that he didn't.
I mean, this is true, but I know that light was on.
Okay, all right.
But
If you're
Like,
listening to this, Chandler is convinced that lights are shutting off in his bathroom, which is the door directly behind us.
just happened. I'll
Okay.
show you. But like, yeah, he probably had a deep hole, and then was like, "Oh well, shut up, bro." And then it just grew from there. And he was like, "You know what? Like, he's either A, insane, or B, high, or C. He's just like, let's stir some shit up.
You're
Like,
saying
let's."
Mel's hole was getting bigger?
No, that's not what I said.
You said it grew from there. You mean the
Isn't
story?
it? Yeah.
Oh, come on, you had to know it was coming. I had to make it funny somehow, and there was too much actual information in there for me to work
Just
my
a lot
normal
of
jokes
whole
in.
jokes.
Lots of whole jokes.
Anything else to wrap it up?
What do you guys think? It was Mel's hole a portal to another dimension? Was it
Ooh, another timeline.
another timeline? Was it some Man in High Castle shit happening? I mean, that would lend a lot of credence to like the FDR coin being minted and 2 years before he died, if like the Germans did win the war, and also why there was a German World War II firearm found on the property.
Could lead to the Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth. If you want to know more about that, hit us up in the comments. Email us again. That's badgerholepodcast@gmail.com. Chandler, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I think
We're on TikTok.
yeah. Oh,
We're on Spotify.
We're on everything. I do think that if Mel out there, like if that's a real person and if this is a real story and everything is legit, and you're still alive, guaranteed, not guaranteed, but high chance that you'd watch everything based off of this hole.
I mean,
High probability.
unless you're just definitely trying to forget it and you did disappear off into the middle of nowhere
That's
with the
possible,
fast
too.
people, and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm a shepherd now. Like, I don't care."
That's possible
I
too.
don't-
Also,
I
he would be in his mid to late 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He'd be pretty up there.
But I do want to know what everyone else has to say, just
Mel's
because like
nephew, if you happen to find this, please hit us up. Any sort of firsthand corroboration. Like, we'll get the story out there to the, I think, 13 people now that watch us.
a lot more watches, but 13 subscribers.
Well, whatever.
But yeah, no, I want to know everyone else's opinions because get as many points of views. Because mine, again, I think the dude's full of it.
I think it had to be based on some sort of actual reality.
Hey,
Yeah,
could've
and I
watched
don't
this-
think
crazy.
he's full of it. I think,
He's crazy and believes
yeah.
the story.
I
and
think
that's
he
possible
probably
too.
needed some help.
We all three have very different beliefs in this. So like that, I want to know what everyone else's are.
I'm going to get a bumper sticker that says, "I heart Mel's hole."
Do it.
That'd be great.
Do it.
All right. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's it. I've been Drew.
I'm Chandler.
I'm Trevor.
Next time.
That was a good high five.
That was loud.
I almost fell off my chair.